I'm going to unfortunately be the fourth person who's going to use art as an analogy or a metaphor for my presentation. So I apologise to any art history majors. But my frame of reference is going to be this little book from 1972 called Ways of Seeing. Some of you might have read this, or you might have seen the 6-part BBC documentary series, which is very 1970s in the way it's filmed. But I promise you, we will get back to this in a moment. We're approaching the whole AI space and thinking about how it applies to brands and people by asking some pretty fundamental questions again. Things like, who do we advertise to? Who do we build brands for? Who are we convincing to buy our product? What does the path to purchase look like? All of these questions are really important now to ask because, as everyone in this room is gathered here for this explicit reason, AI is affecting every stage of the consumer journey. It's changing how we search, share, shop, and even speak. This has given rise to a new marketing discipline, and if we call it GEO or AEO, LLMO, AISO, AIO, or AIEO, there's acronyms that we love to invent and talk about, but it's also important to recognise not just where you show up, but how these models think. It's something we've been working on for the past 18 months or so, and had a paper published in Harvard Business Review with INSEAD Professor David Dubois looking at not only what brands get thought about, but how do these models think about brands and categories. And that's really important because what we're in the midst of is not just a shift in queries. And where a lot of the emphasis today is placed is about, how is text moving? But really, if we take a step back, there's new journeys that are emerging that are changing how people discover, compare, purchase, and even interact with products and services afterwards. Agentic shopping, agent browsers, multimodal search, they're all poised to transform the way that people interact with your brands and products, but also whether or not a person even needs to. And so we believe there's a broader opportunity at play here as brands start to think about winning in the AI era, looking at their generative engine marketing strategies. Yes, thinking about GEO and how you show up, but also how does your brand and product strategy, audience creative strategy, PR, corporate comms, influencer commerce, and even paid media need to adapt to these new sorts of environments. And so our platform share model gives brands a view across every model, which is important, but also across all of these different optimization opportunities. So you can understand how your brand's perceived, how you show up for search visibility, how you can optimize your text, image, and video content, and even how you can optimize your paid media. Which brings me back to 1972. In the book, John Berger writes that although every image embodies a way of seeing, our perception or appreciation of an image depends also upon our own way of seeing. And it's time we start thinking about how does an AI see? How does it see your brand, your product, and how is that shaping how it interacts on behalf of its consumers? And so one of the modules I just want to quickly touch on today that talks about this is our asset evaluation module. And so these sort of questions that often come up, what do LLMs think about any piece of text, image, and video content? How can you improve LLM comprehension and accessibility to elevate that perception? How does the model recognize meaning and message? And how can you deploy with confidence, pre-testing every asset before an LLM sees it? And so I thought a good way of showing that today would actually be to get LLMs to tell us what they think about Meta's latest Meta AI glasses that they released yesterday. The way we do this is we take text, image, or video files, in this instance it's 4 videos, and get the AI to tell us, what does it see across attributes that we define, so design, functionality, battery, camera, connectivity, and durability, and it can go into great detail. If we think about every single piece of content is going to be served not just to a person, but also to a model, we can actually start understanding what these models understand today. And so if we look at something like Mark Cavendish's video here, and for any reformed cyclists in the room like myself, it's a very important name, we can see, right, across the sort of different attributes, pretty strong. The ad itself, good at showcasing Mark Cavendish sprinting up a hill, not in the best form of his life, but he's a little bit older now. But you could say, okay, if you're a cyclist and you want to showcase these glasses and get a great shot of you and your group of lycra-clad mates on the hill, well, unfortunately, the LLMs aren't really picking up this. Does a great job at cameras. Okay, so how do we think about optimizing this content? Do we need to produce a different piece of content that talks to those themes in particular? These sorts of insights provide not only a sort of a diagnosis, but also real optimizations, telling you what models want to see so that you can then build the content that will persuade a person, but also build on the attributes that are important to the models. So that takes us back to sort of one of the things that Noah talked about this morning about the point of today's session of sharing, experiments, the thinking, and sort of embracing uncertainty and change with the sort of curiosity. And one of the things that we're really interested in is this whole concept of how AI sees. If we think about all the things that have happened with vision, if you think about Samsung Galaxy's new ad shows someone at shelf using their vision AI to make a decision about a product, this is about much more than text. And so one of the things that we've been doing is sort of experimenting this way. How do AI see different aspects of a brand's assets? Just 3 examples here from luxury brands: catwalk, campaign, catalog, branded catalog. Brand recognition is really mixed. Maybe quiet luxury is too quiet for a model to really understand if a product is great and should be bought. What's also interesting then is interrogating more behind the recognition. We're finding that these LLMs can pick up really subtle brand cues. This has broad applications on how we design not only products, but physical spaces, every piece of communication, to build up a semantic language that these models can pick up on, where value and these attributes are built up over time. We can also see that it picks up on art direction. Now, this is Loro Piana, too quiet for the models to understand it's Loro Piana branded, but it understands social status. Gemini understands it's about being an art insider, wealth in an elite creative class. And it picks up on broader cultural context, where every piece of your sponsorship strategy, tells something to a model about the brand that you are. We can start to understand before you put a dollar down what a model's going to think and how it's going to communicate that effort. Leave you with 2 final thoughts. The first is that AI is watching with us already today. So everything that you're producing for your brand, text, image, and video, does something and can do something to shift how the models think. Not only that, but I think a couple of days ago, we saw the release of the agent payments protocol, which I've had a play around with. You will have seen just how soon these agents will be able to also purchase for us. So there's a broader opportunity at play. Very happy to talk to anyone afterwards as well, and you can go to sharemodel.ai if you want to have a play around.